Hello, everybody, and we're back on the Who Are You series. And I've got somebody who I have been on his podcast before, but I'm pleased to be interviewing him on Who Are You. It's Andrew, the Hinckley Gooner. How are you, Andrew?
I'm very well, thanks, Kevin. Thanks very much for having me on. It's a
No,
great
you're
honour.
welcome. You're welcome. You're welcome. So, listen, tell everyone who's going to be listening to this where you are, what you do, and where they can find you, Andrew.
Yeah, well, I've got my YouTube channel and podcast, which is called From Dial Square to Where, and it's purely a platform to have fans all across the world on there just to discuss everything Arsenal in a nice, common sense, opinionated and funny kind of way. It's been really good fun meeting lots of really, really good fans across the world. Yes, find it on YouTube, From Dial Square to Where. We usually do a weekly show. And it's not really just specifically about the matches, just sort of post-match reviews and all that sort of stuff. It's generally about what's going on within the club and sort of trying to get into the nitty-gritty of the finer details. It's been, really interesting. We also do like a show called Meza Island Discs, which is my own take on the Desert Island Discs theme, and that's been brilliant, and that's gone down quite well. And it's good fun, really good fun.
Sounds interesting. Like I say, I've been on one of your pods, and it was really good
Yeah.
fun. Good opinions as well, which matters, because everyone's got their own opinion, haven't they? That's the one thing about
Exactly.
Arsenal, especially Arsenal fans. Everyone's got their own opinion, and they're not
They certainly have.
and they're not scared to say their opinion, mate. So, no, listen, anybody, if you're listening in and you're watching, check out Andrew the Hinckley Gooner and From Dial Square to Where, etc. and Meza Island Disc, etc.
Yeah.
Check him out.
Thank you.
He's a top guy, and you're going to get to know him a little bit better now, because I don't want to waste any time, Andrew, because we've got a lot to cover
Absolutely.
to start with. So, Andrew, what was your first game watching watching Arsenal at Highbury?
It was, because I've been a fan since about 1980, but I didn't actually get to go to the ground until 1985, and it was a game against Villa. It's a bit sketchy in my head, but I mean, I can remember vividly walking up to the ground and just being awestruck immediately. It's incredible. But I do remember a last-minute winner. I think it was a 3-2 win,
Right.
and I'm pretty sure it was the defender. I think it's a last-minute goal as well that we won 3-2. And I was absolutely insistent on going into the North Bank. It was my brother-in-law who took me at the time. My family aren't into football at all, but luckily both of my sisters got together with guys who are football fans, and he sort of willingly took me along, even though he's a Millwall fan.
Well,
So,
nothing wrong with me. Hey, as a South
no,
London guy, that's it. Well, he's come to the best club over. That's the other side anyway.
exactly. But at least I got to see, because I went to a few Millwall games as well with him, just because I love football as well. And I got to see George Graham managing Millwall before he
Yeah,
came to the Gunners. And he
that's
actually did really well
interesting.
there.
Well,
Yeah,
that
definitely.
is really interesting, because a lot of the people I interview on here, I speak to them about, what did you know about George Graham, etc. A lot of them said we
Mm.
know he was at Millwall, but they had no idea what it was, what his style was, what he was like. But he done a really good job at Millwall, George Graham, didn't he,
Oh,
with
he did.
Theo?
Yeah,
But
yeah. I mean, I saw Cascarino and Teddy Sheringham up front, and the madman Terry Hurlock in
yeah,
midfield. It was really exciting. I mean, I went home and away with to some Millwall games as
yeah.
well. Got attacked on a few occasions when we went away,
Oh
but
yeah, yeah.
hair raising. I mean,
Everyone wants fancies it, don't they? Yeah.
oh mate, honestly, the reputation preceded them. Whenever I was there, it was never the Millwall fans that actually started any kind of trouble. It was always their reputation. And being a 12, 13-year-old, early sort of teens, it was really exciting, being
Yeah, of
involved in all
course.
that.
Yeah, yeah. They won't
But I
start
did
it, but
witness
they'll
a few
finish
times.
it, Andrew.
Yeah. But I do remember at my first game I think Kenny Sansom, O'Leary played, Paul Davis, who was a magnificent midfielder.
Yes.
I don't think you didn't play in that game. I'm
No,
pretty sure. I think
I was schoolboys then. I was probably at
yeah,
London Colney at the time, '85.
Yeah, I used to
Yeah,
watch you in the reserves quite regularly as well when you were coming through. It was really
yeah.
exciting. But we had
Combination. Yeah, the combination. Yeah,
Charlie
brilliant.
Nicholas, Tony Woodcock up front, and yeah, it was good. It was really, really good. We weren't too bad that season, actually. I know we went through some really bad times in the '80s, but
Yeah,
I think we finished sort of sixth, seventh that year. So
it's not
I
bad.
was absolutely delighted to get to see my first game there and standing on the North Bank. It was very much like the Nick Hornby type of experience for me. It really was, and
When
I
the
always
goal
stood
goes
in.
in.
Yeah, oh God, yeah. I mean, you just get swept up in a time. Mind you, I don't think we had a massive crowd then. I mean, the crowds were pretty poor in at that period in the '80s. I think they dwindled quite a lot, but it didn't matter when you were a young kid and you just got swallowed up on the North Bank and you just sway like the tide.
Yeah,
Get pushed back and forth, and yeah, the atmosphere is incredible.
yeah.
Absolutely loved it.
I'd love them to bring back safe standing, but look, we might even get there
Yeah,
later on in this
yeah.
conversation. So, who was your favourite player growing up then, Andy?
Well, a bit further on down the line, it was. I mean, it was David Rocastle for me.
Yeah,
I mean, no, still to this day, I miss him.
yeah,
And although you feel like you know him. Yeah, I've never had the pleasure to meet David Rocastle, but he was the guy for me. And when we were growing up in that period, Liverpool were obviously the dominant team, and I was. A lot of my school friends were Liverpool fans, as you can imagine, at that period because they were so successful, and
Glory
even though
Hunters.
they're
Yeah,
from exactly, and they had when it got to sort of towards the middle to the latter part of the '80s. I can't remember the exact year he joined, but they had John Barnes,
yeah,
and John Barnes to me was a god of football. But I hated him because he was so good.
yeah, yeah,
He was so scary for Arsenal to come up against, and he just had the feeling he was going to rip me to pieces. And but we had David Rocastle, and Rocastle was not only as skillful as like a Brazilian footballer with his dribbling ability and his technique and his quality on the ball. His goals that he scored were fantastic, but he had steel. He
yes,
wasn't going to be pushed around. He had so much strength and to go alongside the skill as well. And he was a real teammate. He was be the first one there if anyone was attacking one of his teammates. Did a bad tackle, he'll be in their face as well. He had everything to me, and he was an Arsenal boy through and through, of course. And yeah, he was my god, really. I had posters of him all over my walls, and I absolutely love David Rocastle to this day.
yeah. And you know what? I feel exactly the same. And I feel so proud when I hear the Arsenal fans singing his name and stuff like that and
Yeah,
acknowledging him. He was a fantastic player and ambassador for Arsenal Football Club, and
he was. Yeah,
he's sorely
probably
missed,
the
isn't he?
saddest. I could still to this day. Like I say, I still miss him. And every new shirt that I buy, I still always have 7 on the back. I don't
Nice.
have the name because he never had his name on the back of his shirt. But
Yeah,
I
no
just have the
names
number
then.
7.
Yeah, yeah, no names
Exactly.
then.
So I will always stick with that. And I'm really, actually, just to quickly digress, I'm glad that Saka's got the number 7 shirt yesterday. That's nice
Yes, a nice
for a
touch.
homegrown talent. Yeah, it
Yeah,
is. Homegrown
yeah.
boy to get the number 7 shirt. I think it's important.
I agree with you
And
there. So, and Andrew, how did you become a Gooner? Because look, I know you mentioned about your sister's boyfriends or whatever,
yeah, yeah,
but becoming a Gooner. When did you really feel I'm a Gooner
yeah.
now?
Well, it's interesting actually because although I'm from the sort of South London area, I didn't really grow up with a lot of Arsenal fans. Funnily
Yeah,
enough, there was there was some Charlton fans, and like I said, there was a lot of Liverpool fans in my school. But my best friend at the time was a guy called Dean Coburn. Shout out to Dean, if you're listening. I'll put you in touch with this podcast, Dean, so you can listen back. And he lives in Australia now,
right.
but he was the other Arsenal fan in my class, and me and him were inseparable. So he came from a family of Arsenal supporters, and like I said, my family weren't into my mum and dad. None of my I've got 2 sisters. They're not
Yeah,
into football, so it's just me really. So he's the one really that I can really say that it got me into Arsenal, and yeah, got him to thank for all the anguish and pain that he's put me through over all these years.
Listen, the club always do it the hard way, Andrew, don't they?
Oh God, yeah, they put you through the ringer, don't they?
They
Honestly,
do.
but growing up in that sort of era, it made all the good times even more special when they arrived, didn't it?
Yeah, big time. Sweet. Made them much sweeter. Definitely much sweeter. So,
Definitely did. We earned
so
it.
Andrew, so tell me some of your Highbury supporting the Arsenal experiences, because I'm sure you've got quite a few to mention.
Oh yeah, definitely. Oh, definitely. It's really hard to say. I mean, when you say about the Highbury experiences, there's so many matches to go through. It'll take forever. But
Well, give
for
me a
me,
couple. Give me a couple of your
yeah, of course, I
favourites.
will do. Highbury Stadium in itself, let me just quickly say, it's the most beautiful stadium in world football for me. It just the look of it, and when you come round, yeah, walking from the tube station and you just see it's just so beautiful, and the Art Deco styling of it. And I was really lucky that one day, because I used to go to the reserve games after work sometimes, and
Yeah,
because you used to just get a walk in for nothing.
yeah.
And I got to meet this guy who was, I thought he's like a caretaker type of guy. But I got talking to him because there was hardly anyone there, and
Not
he
Irish,
took
was
me
he?
to the Marble Halls.
Was he Irish?
Yeah,
Paddy.
yes, I think so.
Paddy. Silver
Paddy, of
hair.
course.
Silver hair.
Yeah,
He's
absolutely.
yeah. Oh, he was
Oh,
top
what a lovely
guy.
guy. And he took me into the Marble Halls to see the Herbert Chapman bust,
The
and
bust. Yeah.
I was just so, it was incredible. So the whole experience, every time I go to Highbury, is just magical. The smell of like the rat burgers cooking outside,
Yeah.
the program sellers, everything about it. But it's there's a couple of games that really sprang to mind, which I just absolutely, and that was like the season 1991 when we won the league, and Chelsea we beat them 4-1. And I can't remember if it was that game. Was it that game or the Liverpool? There was a Liverpool game. We won 3-0 as well that year. And I don't know if I won't swear
No,
on your
you can.
podcast.
You're allowed.
Oh,
It's
you
goes
can.
to
Oh, that's
adults.
all right.
Yeah, don't worry about that.
We obviously had the Old Trafford brawl
Yeah,
that season,
yeah.
and we had the points deduction, and it was really so unfair. But I can just remember, and obviously being still quite young at the time, and we were singing, you can stick your 2 points up your fucking ass.
Yeah.
I was just,
Stick your fucking
I was
2 points up your ass. Yeah.
yeah, exactly.
Oh man.
To the tune of "She'll Be Coming Round the Mountain." Yeah,
Yeah.
and I was just singing it, and I was so elated at that point because we were just riding on the crest of a wave, and obviously we'd had a talisman, put in prison. Yeah, and it was just a mental season, but we were playing some really good football that year. We were the top scorers in the league,
Yeah.
and there was another one of my favourites had joined that season as well, and Anders Limpar. What a player!
Super
And
sweet, man.
do you know what? I remember going to Wembley that season to see his debut, along with, I think it was David Seaman's debut as well, and Andy Linnigan. It
Yeah.
was the Makita
Keita
International
trophy.
Tournament.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, that was it. And you scored in that game against Villa,
Yeah.
I think, on his debut with Anders Limpar.
Yeah.
And what a goal that Limpar scored that day. He cut in from
Left foot, didn't he?
right
Cutting from the
into the
left and
far corner,
pinged it.
postage stamp.
Yeah.
What a goal! And he was just such an exciting player that season as well. And I was just thrilled watching him that year. And I think he scored a hat trick towards the back end of the season. Can't remember who that was. That might have been the
Coventry. Coventry at home.
Coventry. That's
Last
it.
game of the
Yes,
season. That was party time.
absolutely fantastic. That was just a great season. And I didn't get to see. I think I saw about 2 or 3 home games during the '89 win. Didn't feel. I mean, obviously, I was absolutely elated during that season as well. But I
Well,
didn't get to go as
my
much.
next question. So I don't
Well,
even
yeah,
want to. Yeah, that's my next
exactly.
question
So
for you.
I went a lot more often during the 1991 season,
Right.
and I really, really felt a part of it then. I used to be able to go on my own because I was around 16 then, 16, 17. And I used to just travel up on the train and the tube myself, and I really felt like I was a proper hardcore
Proper
Arsenal fan.
hardcore
Like,
fan. Andrew,
traveling up on my own.
did you go to the Man United game at home? You know, because
No, that's one I didn't get to that one. No, unfortunately.
because Nottingham Forest beat Liverpool and we won the league, and we were
That's
playing
right.
Man United that evening. So maybe it was a bit late for you.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? Maybe it was.
Unfortunately,
Yeah,
I couldn't get there. Yeah, I remember. I mean, I was living on my pocket money at that point. You
yeah,
know,
yeah.
doing
No,
like a
I get that.
Saturday
I get
job.
you. I get
But,
you.
yeah, I was working in a chemist on a Saturday, sweeping up.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was an incredible season, and that was probably the real highlight. But I just felt so in love with the whole atmosphere and the whole match day atmosphere at that point. And like I said, I really miss Highbury. I really do.
I think a lot of people feel the same way, Andrew. Well, you've set me up lovely for the next question. Andrew, can you tell me how your day and evening went on the 26th of May, 1989?
Oh, yeah, I was, yeah, it was I was absolutely riddled with nerves. I can't even tell you. I was absolutely riddled with nerves. And I wasn't, I remember in the morning, I was feeling quite ill, you know, and I think it genuinely was just the pure adrenaline,
Nervous
really, more
energy
than
and
anything.
adrenaline, yeah.
And that day dragged so much, you know, it was incredible. It was like, and I remember that because I've said a couple of times that I come from a household of non-sort of football fans. They didn't get it, you know, and when I think I put the telly on maybe about 2 hours before, you know, the match because I just wanted it to start.
Yeah.
And I watched it on my own in the lounge. And well, let me just tell you, when it sort of kicked off, I had all of a sudden, it's really weird, but I actually went quite calm, you know, and I just had a good feeling about it. I wasn't quite as nervous anymore. The nerves sort of dissipated quite a bit. And as you know, Smudger got the goal in the beginning of the second half. I just thought, we are going to do this. But then, you know, as the time sort of progressed, you know, it was obviously getting more and more and more nervous. But then, when that goal went in, I can't describe the feeling, but it was just like shock, you know. And I jumped up,
Yeah, but
turned
which
around.
goal? Which goal?
Oh no,
Is it?
Michael Thomas's
No,
goal.
well,
Michael
don't jump, Andrew.
Okay.
Tell me about Smudger's one first, because if that
Smudger's
one don't
goal,
go in, Michael Thomas's one
mate.
don't make. You know what I mean? So
Well, Smudger, he's a legend. I love Smudger. He's such an another
underrated.
underrated,
Yeah,
really underrated goal scorer. I mean, he was top scorer for about three years, I think. You
yes,
know, got the golden boot and love Smudger. And when his goal went in, I mean, obviously, yeah, absolute elation. Sort of jumped up, punched the air. And my mum came in. I remember she's asking what the hell's going on, and I said, "Oh, we just scored." And she goes, "Oh, well, keep it down." And I,
oh,
what?
no
Keep it
chance.
down. For
You
God's
got
sake.
no chance, mum.
No way, no way. But I just had a good feeling. I just knew that it was coming. And since you've heard all the stories since, it just went to plan, didn't it? But when that goal went in, and then the Liverpool players like was swarming around the goal, you know, the referee and everything, trying to say he didn't touch it, or
Yeah,
trying to
yeah.
claim it wasn't a goal,
Trying
and
it
you
on.
just think, oh my God, you know, because they were. Liverpool, I hate Liverpool. So, I mean, at that point, they were just so dominant. It was just everyone hated them apart from the Scousers, didn't they? To be honest.
Yeah. Well, a
But
bit like now, isn't it?
oh yeah, God, very true. Very true. It's never gone away, hasn't it? Even
Never
though
got
they've won the
away,
league
mate.
30
Never got
years, it's
away.
still the same. But yeah, it was just elation. And but as the match was sort of wearing on, you were doing well. We'll keep. They hardly had any chances, really. You know, we limited them to hardly
True.
anything. And
Very true.
let's face the fact that David O'Leary was really. He was getting on at that point.
Yeah.
You know, he was quite old at that point, but he was just really untroubled as well. I mean, God, when you get to that goal though, at the end, when you
But give
get
me
to
the
that,
bill. See, Andrew, you see,
I
you know the moment, Andrew, the moment, because I was there, right? And obviously Lukic has got the ball and he rolls it. I'm expecting him to kick it.
mm,
Do you know what I mean? And
yeah,
he rolls it out to
I was
Dicko.
screaming at him
Go
to
on.
kick the ball down the
Yeah.
field. You know, I was thinking, what are you doing, man? What are you
Yeah.
doing? Do you not realise that it's right next to the end of the game? I mean, just get the ball down to Smudge. But yeah, when he rolled it out, I thought, oh my God, you know, we're running out. The ref's going to blow the whistle. You know, he's going to blow the whistle. Just get on with it. And oh my God, the tension. It's just unbelievable. But I mean, when I actually thought the match was over when Kevin Richardson went down with cramp.
Right.
You know, and he was down for quite a while.
Yeah, he
you know,
was.
and I thought the refs ain't going to put this time back on. You know,
Yeah.
he's going to blow. He's not going to add this time on. To be fair to him, you know, the ref did. But at that point, I thought, well, that's it now. When Kevin Richardson went down, I thought that was it.
Right.
Because we're going to run out of time. So, yeah, you're exactly right, mate. When Lucas rolled out the ball, I thought, what are you doing, man? You know, get the ball down the pitch. Hoof it. You know, like proper English football fans, hoof it down the pitch.
So you were listening to the fantastic commentary then, weren't you?
Oh, absolutely.
Dixon to Smith, yeah.
I can still. It's like it was yesterday, mate. It's mad in your head. No matter how many times you've seen it since, it's still like it happened. It just happened so recently.
Happened, yeah. So Dixon plays it up to Smith.
Yeah.
Smudge up Smith with Thomas charging through the midfield. Go on.
It's Smith's touch. It's incredible at that point in the match. You know, he was so calm, wasn't he, Smudge? Yeah. He never really panicked ever.
No.
He always looked like he almost looked sometimes like he weren't trying because he was so relaxed.
It was effortless, yeah.
Yeah, it was. What a ball. And when we got that bit of luck, oh my God, you know, he jumped up. When he got that ricochet, Thomas, when he tried to put it over his head. He got that ricochet. And then when he was going through, you're thinking, hit it. You know, hit it. Just put through it. You know,
Andrew, did it slow down for you? You know, as he's
burst
through, did it go in slow? Because it went in slow motion for me.
Well, it's the same as Lukic. It's the same as Lukic. You're thinking, just hurry up, you know, get it. And when he was running down with the ball, he was another one. He was like horizontal as a player, wasn't he? Like that,
his own time.
Michael Thomas, mate. Honestly, he was so chilled. But when he's going through, you're thinking, it's it. Fuck, just hit the ball. Because don't forget, he'd missed one not long before, hadn't he? Like 10 minutes before the end or whatever. And when he's so calm. And when that ball went in, because I was like crouching at that point. I wasn't sitting down. My arse was off the sofa, you know, and I was just like half sitting, half standing sort of thing as he was going through and he got that ricochet. And then when the ball went in, it was like all the breath went out my body. I just like screamed at the top of my voice and I kicked the side of the sofa as I went to run out the room.
Yeah.
So I missed a lot of I saw him do his like fish out of water celebration, and then I was out. I went to run out the room to try and shout to someone that would listen that we just won the league, and I broke my toe on the sofa. I kicked the sofa. No. But I was like, I didn't really care at that point because I was like running, like hobbling and going, the broken toe. And I did, but it's just I didn't care. I just went outside into the garden and I went, "We've done it!" You know, like shouting because it was just. I think my mum was walking. I don't know why she was outside, but I think she must have been watering the plants or something because she was like keen on her garden. My mum and I was just, "We've done it!" And she goes, "Oh, that's nice." And like, you know, and obviously it was the day before. Before mobile phones really at that point as well. So I got onto the house phone and I rang my mate from my class who's a Liverpool fan. Yeah. Matthew Riley. Shout out to Matthew. I'll put you in touch with this podcast as well, Matthew. And I spoke to him on the old dial-up phone. Yeah. And and I just said, just giving him. Can't remember what I said to him down the phone, but I was just giving him plenty down the phone, saying because he was like ribbing me for weeks, obviously. But yeah, I mean, the whole thing about that season was that match of being the last game of the season when it obviously shouldn't have been. It should have been quite a few weeks before, but because of the disaster at Hillsborough, the way that worked out, it was you couldn't have scripted it, could you? I mean, because it was after the FA Cup final and literally the last kick of the season. And so when people say that the Aguero moment is the most exhilarating moment in football, just do your history, do some homework, and actually realise what happened that season. And to beat Liverpool in the manner that we did at that point was they were destined to win because of Hillsborough and because of everything.
On their patch, and it was on their patch as well. That's the
they
other
hadn't
thing.
lost at home for how long? They hadn't lost at home for I can't remember.
Not especially by 2 clear goals.
Madness.
It never happened.
Absolutely. And we changed our style of play. Going to the back three.
Yeah.
And when you hear the accounts afterwards from all the players involved and everything, watching the '89 documentary. Yeah. They all thought it was. I mean, Merce thought it was madness, didn't he? What? When he went in at half time and George Graham said it's all going to plan. He goes,
it's all going to plan.
We
ain't scored a goal yet. Where we want them, he said. Apparently, what?
I know. I mean, what was it like inside the ground? Though it must have been mental.
It was honestly. It was electric inside that ground, and it was. The players who weren't involved, we sat in with the Arsenal fans in that section. Yeah. And with about obviously we're 1-0 up at the time. You can imagine we're hugging each other and we're all over the place. And with about 5 minutes to go, we get led round by the dugouts.
Yeah.
Obviously, then Michael Thomas goes and scores, doesn't he? So we're all up. We're all over there. I nearly get lifted by the police. I'm trying to run on the pitch. Honestly, I'd lost it. Lifelong
Nigel Winterburn just
run past Michael, didn't he? He lost it.
He didn't go to Michael or nothing. He just ran to the fans, didn't he? In the corner,
just lost it. It's just an incredible moment in sport. It's a sporting moment. It's not just a football moment. That is a sporting moment.
I swear that was because I know that David Dean was, responsible in large for the creation of the Premier League.
Yeah,
and I think that match was not only helped towards the Premier League becoming a thing because of the amount of people watched it live. On it's
on that
incredible.
Friday. Yeah,
and after all the trouble with the hooliganism for years gone by, Heysel disaster, you name it. It was football fans were the lowest of the low. We were scum. Yeah. Everyone thought so. But that match, I think, was, and then quickly followed by Italia '90, Gazza's Tears, was the basis of which the modern way we watch football now is. That was the reason. That night, I think, I genuinely think that David Dean, from that night onwards, realised what football could do to the country as big for a television spectacle, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
There's no drama like it. You can't create drama like it.
Yeah.
And
you can't recreate it, can you? You can't recreate it.
No.
It is just so spontaneous. And the fact that it was the top 2 teams, that's the other thing.
Just like I said, the Hollywood script, if you just get thrown back in your face if you rip something like that, let's say that it's too far-fetched.
Yeah.
They would just say, don't be stupid. That's no one would believe that. It's not believable. So that is it's probably the biggest moment in sport for me, full stop.
Yeah.
There isn't anything bigger. I think, funnily enough, the second probably the biggest thing, maybe when... what's his name? In the snooker, Steve Davis versus the upside down glasses. What's his name?
Dennis Taylor.
When he won Dennis Taylor. Yeah, do you remember that final?
That,
and it went to the last black.
Pressure.
It went to the last black, 17-all, and it went to the last black after he was 8-0 down. In the final. So something like that, you can't script something like that either. But Anfield '89 for me is just unmatchable. I don't think anything like that will ever happen again.
Very true.
And I've been lucky enough to have Nigel Winterburn on my show previously, and his recap of it as well is just phenomenal. And the way I don't think he's ever run so fast that he did. After Michael Thomas scored, didn't he? He just legged it across the goal mouth.
With one arm in the air when he ran right past. No, that was brilliant.
Everyone to a man that match. Kevin Richardson was just brilliant.
Immense.
He was another really underrated player, wasn't he?
Immense.
He came in from Everton.
Yeah.
And to actually make that tackle from John Barnes, initially to actually helped create that goal, and after being down with cramp, I mean, the monumental. He's just fantastic. I don't know what's ever happened to Kevin Richardson. I've never seen him or heard from him for years.
Yeah,
I'd
well,
love
he
to
left
see him,
Arsenal, went to Watford, didn't he? He went to Watford, I think,
Yes, yeah.
after, and
But
I'm not sure.
he's
I'm not
very
sure,
reclusive nowadays.
but you know what? He was a great addition to that squad, because
He really
he'd come
was.
from that great Everton side.
Yeah,
Who,
yeah.
he was a kind of utility man who used to fill in that team, him and Alan Harper, and they still used to win with him. So he brought that mentality, that toughness
Yeah,
as well, and
unsung hero.
yeah, very much
Absolutely
so,
unsung hero.
very much so.
Yeah, there's a lot of players in the squad around that sort of time that you can say that about.
And do you
But
know what? They might not be the fancy names, but they got the job done. That was the key, Andrew.
yeah, exactly.
Getting the
Well,
job done.
that is exactly the type of player we need to be bringing in now. I'm not going to
Now,
change the
that's right.
subject completely, but we need the right type of personality in our team. Not big names. We need that type of player who will give everything to
Hunger.
play for
Who's
Arsenal.
hungry?
Absolutely, yeah.
All
That's
right
what we're
then,
lacking.
Andrew. This just dovetails nicely into my next question. What's your favourite memories of George Graham's Arsenal? Obviously, that's one. 89 is one. But you kind of
Um,
mentioned 1990-91 season. What about
yeah,
the 87 uh, trilogy against Spurs in the
yeah.
semi-final, and then obviously
Oh
beating
God,
Liverpool in the final?
crazy. Do you know? I mean, the biggest thing I find is the change in mentality, which I can see signs of now under Mikel Arteta, and
Yeah.
that's why there's so many similarities between what's going on now and what went on back then. It's quite uncanny, really. Everyone, when George Graham was appointed, if we'd have had Twitter then, I mean, my God, he would have been hounded out.
Yeah.
No one wanted him,
Yeah.
because he wasn't a big glamorous name. Everyone wanted Terry Venables, I seem
That's
to
right.
remember at that
Yeah.
point. And I'm pretty sure he was spoken to about the job. And when George Graham was appointed, it was almost like the type of thing. Not for me though, and I was quite lucky in that respect because I'd had the Millwall
Yeah.
connection.
Experience. Yeah. You'd seen him work. Kind of.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
I loved more than anything is it just really epitomised the standards, the class of the club in the blazer. He's such a handsome bloke, wasn't he?
Yeah.
And I was really proud of him as a manager because he looked so brilliant. He looked like a proper manager who's always immaculate. He had the Arsenal crest on his blazer. He had the Arsenal tie on, and he enforced that amongst the players as well. And you could see that when we walked into opposition grounds, and we all got off the coach, and they were all
Blazer and
wearing the
flannels.
smart.
Blazer and
Exactly.
flannels. Yeah. Blazer and flannels.
It looked like we mean
Class.
business.
Class.
Yeah.
Coming to do a job. Yeah.
And when he set about changing the team, and I could see back then the difference in mentality of the players. When he got it wasn't a popular decision again. Again, imagine on Twitter getting rid of people like Charlie Nicholas and and
Kenny
bringing in
Sansom and those
Kenny
guys.
Sansom,
Viv Anderson.
mate, and Graham Ricks and
Yeah.
brilliant players. Viv Anderson, another unsung hero. What a right back he was.
Yeah.
Incredible right back. People hardly ever speak about him, but I loved Viv Anderson. And then Kenny Sansom, England's left back. It was just mad. And when he got rid of John Lukic after 89, what a decision that was.
Yeah.
Strong-minded decision. I mean, everyone, bar none, said, why are we going after David Seaman?
Yeah.
John Lukic is a great goalkeeper.
Yeah.
And it was just all coming together piece by piece. It was just phenomenal. The way that he changed that side from the mid-80s to a title-winning club in 1989, 88, 89, was unbelievable.
Yeah.
Absolutely unbelievable. And his achievements have gone so underappreciated. And what I like is that this 89 documentary that came out recently, because of the anniversary and stuff, I think that now finally people have put to bed all the rubbish about him going to Tottenham and sullying his reputation, going to Leeds. And I think he's finally getting a bit more appreciation that he finally deserves now, because the mentality change in that team was unbelievable. And when you go back to that period, Liverpool was so dominant, and all their players buying up, they're all household names across Europe.
Yes.
You know, they were like the Man City of the day. And when we were going up, we had our new team, and we had peak players like, you know, Martin Hayes and Perry Groves, obviously Rocastle, Thomas, Davis. None of them were household names at that point, really.
True.
No, I mean, obviously 89 was. And a lot of fans were like quite jealous of saying, well, we had a team of unknowns, you know. And when I was writing all the players' names and doing all my squad things on the back of my pencil case at school and stuff like that, you know, we didn't have those star names to write down. And some people felt like, you know, we were a second-rate team.
You can't do anything. You can't achieve anything with and a lot of them were homegrown as well, Andrew, weren't they?
That's what I loved. I absolutely loved it. Do you know what? In that period, one of my most proud moments of my entire Arsenal supporting history was England played a game, and I can't remember. I think it might have been Tunisia or something like that. And Brian Marwood made his one and only England appearance. And at that point, we'd had 7 players on the pitch at some point during that match. I'm pretty sure that's right. And I was so proud that we had a whole team of Arsenal players in the England side, and that said everything to me. I was so proud. And I think Brian Marwood only came on for the last 5 or 10 minutes, and I don't think he played again. But going back, another unsung hero. What a player he was, Brian Marwood. Brian Marwood.
And you know, Andrew,
he got injured, didn't he? He got injured in that season. If he didn't get injured, I think would have won the league way before Anfield.
Yes, I think so as well. It was a massive miss.
He was
the balls,
brilliant,
crosses
brilliant
he put in.
crosser of a ball. Brilliant.
Oh, he could pick anyone out on a sixpence, couldn't he?
He was
even at pace. You know, whilst he was running at pace. But he was a great player. But when I've lost my track now because I keep going off on tangent. But when Limpar came in, that was so exciting because he was like an exotic player back then. There weren't that many foreigners in the first division.
That's right.
He had. I mean, when I went to Wembley and saw you score and saw him score his first goal, and then I saw David Seaman for the first time, and it was something else. You know, he was such an exciting bursting onto the scene. You know, and some of the goals he scored, like chip goal against Man United. That goal he scored from distance.
Against Liverpool.
Liverpool, sorry. Of course it was. Yeah, what a goal that was. You know, the whole crowd erupted. We weren't used to that kind of, foreign, dazzling skill, were we? But
very much so. Very much so.
To have him on one side and Rocastle on the other side, and I mean, what we couldn't do for like a Michael Thomas now bursting through the midfield with his runs.
Very true.
I don't think there's hardly anyone in the modern game
It's a dying art now. It's a dying art. A midfielder runs beyond and gets goals.
Mate, honestly, he'd be worth £100 million because the timing of his runs from midfield were like second to none.
Yeah.
And I was devastated when he left. But I think that's something that I think he puts it down himself. The reason for leaving was that he was hardly touching the ball in the match because we were the way that George Graham set the team up to be sort of quite a dynamic attacking, counter-attacking team down the wings and that he wasn't getting involved in the game so much.
Well, I think that might be part of it, but I think the other part Andrew, was George Graham didn't want to pay anybody. He paid him. He made sure he got looked after, but he didn't want to pay anybody. So,
I think it's right that he was only on about 250 quid a week when he scored that goal at Anfield, 89 or something like that.
Listen, I don't know what he was on, but I know he was on
madness.
I know George ran a tight ship, and when you get success, you're supposed to get rewarded, and it was difficult. George was a hard taskmaster. Let's put it that way. And listen, he got the results, but I'm sure if George could changed something, he would have rewarded the boys a bit more, because do you know what? There was a lot more to come from the boys, I reckon. But anyway, listen.
I think he, to be fair, in the early days, that probably got him the success because he got the right type of person into the club. Because they didn't come to Arsenal for the money, did they? They came to Arsenal to play for the badge.
Yeah.
And I think that really helped with the type of player that he brought in. Like, you know, Steve Bold, Lee Dixon, Nigel Winterburn and all that he brought. Perry Groves from Colchester.
Yeah.
They had the right type of hunger, like you said earlier.
Yeah,
and I don't think
hunger.
They weren't coming to Arsenal for the money, put it that way, like you just said. So
Definitely.
maybe that helped with the success and getting the right type of mentality player in.
Well, that's got to happen again now.
But you're right. When winning the league twice in 3 years, you need to be rewarded, don't you?
Yeah,
clearly,
you need to be rewarded. So, Andrew, what's your thoughts on the Arsene Wenger era? Because obviously George Graham, it changed. George left, and we had a year of Bruce Rioch, and then this school teacher-looking fella turns up. What's your thoughts on the Arsene Wenger era? Because there's kind of two parts to his era, isn't there?
Yeah. When he came in as well, I could only imagine what the Twitter outburst would have been, because no one had heard of him really, unless you're like some kind of real football nerd, you know, properly studied the European game. You'd never have heard of him, and. I suppose because of the way he looked at the time, you know, with, like you said, like a
school teacher,
university lecturer. Yeah, definitely. And you're thinking, oh, you know, he's not a dynamic guy, is he? You know, you want someone that looks, you know, harping back to the George Graham, he looked so smart and you think, oh, God.
Know,
but then
what's his football background? You challenge it.
Exactly.
You know, has he
coming
played?
From Japan.
Yeah.
Coming from Japan, you know, oh, man, honestly, I was really unsure. But boy, could I have been wrong. I mean, I couldn't be more wrong, you know. And he was quite lucky in the respect that he inherited that back four. But he definitely, and I can say this, definitely extended their careers probably by a good 5 years, I reckon. They wouldn't have played as long as they did without him. And it was just crazy. I mean, just to see after a short period of time, Tony Adams coming out like a Rio Ferdinand type of player, bringing the ball out from the back. I think, what, Tony? What the fuck are you doing, man?
What's going on? Like, what's going on?
Honestly, you know, I never in a million years dreamed that I would see the type of football that was being played at Highbury, you know, under this new guy. You know, you had to pinch yourself sometimes, and it was devastating, you know. And when we got in, I mean, at that point, obviously, we'd already had Bergkamp. And, I mean, that was probably... I still think to this day that he, apart maybe Mesut Ozil at the time, but I think he's the highest profile statement signing we've ever had. You know, because it really made the whole of Europe sit up and take note that what a statement signing that was.
Yeah.
And the players that we've had since have gone on to be amazing world-class talents like your Patrick Vieira and your Henry, but when we signed them, they weren't like that.
That's right.
You know,
they got developed.
So Bergkamp was already that incredible player, but we suddenly, because we had Bergkamp, we were able to bring in players like Mark Overmars and that, and that was a gamble because he'd been out for a long period of time with his ACL, I believe. I think it was. I think he'd been out for a long time, and the medical care that you could have at the time isn't the same as it is now. So it could have been the end of his career. So it's a bit of a gamble. But I mean, my God, seeing Mark Overmars coming down the wing as well.
Yeah.
How exciting it was. And we could be defending a corner and then 7-8 seconds later we could have scored a goal.
Yeah,
you know,
right.
it was blistering, you know, the
speed
attacks.
everywhere. Yeah.
So as it progressed over the years, I couldn't quite believe what I was seeing and the players that he brought in, and again, unheard of players at the time. I mean, Nicolas Anelka. I mean, at the end of
top youngster. Wow.
He looked. I think such a shame because his mentality let him down badly. I think, and his stupid advice he was getting from his brother. And again, this is only my opinion. I don't know anything of this to be fact.
Well, you can only say your opinion.
Badly advised.
Andrew, you can only say your opinion. Yeah, you can only say your opinion. That's all.
He could have easily been the highest goal. I think if he'd have stayed at Arsenal, he would easily have been our highest goal scorer of all time. You know, he was untouchable. You know, his pace, the finishing ability, he was ice cold. I don't think I've ever seen a young striker like him. You know, maybe the Brazilian Ronaldo, maybe.
Yeah, R9.
But apart from him, he was no team could handle him.
Yeah.
You know, it was just incredible. Working with Overmars on the left hand side, it was just blistering to watch. So as it progressed, the Wenger era, and we're sort of going into like the early 2000s, and I honestly think that it was the best time in football for ages, as a whole, the Premier League, because the rivalry that was really developing at that point, getting bigger and bigger every year between Ferguson and Wenger. I don't think, again, will that ever be repeated? Would it ever be that exciting?
We
again?
hope so. You know, we hope so. We hope so.
The sledging and
listen, we're trying to build something now, aren't we, with Arteta? Listen, we're going to cover this later, but I'd like to think the conundrum of Arteta could start getting up to the level where Pep is and Klopp is and Lampard is going to be, you know, because Arteta and Lampard are trying to get up there, aren't they? So how about a four-way? Let's have a four-way, you know, tear up. Let's have a tear up, proper one.
That'd be amazing. But the different personalities of Ferguson and Wenger, that just made it, you know. And Wenger had a really good dry sense of humour, I think. I think he was quite sort of sarcastic and
he was smart with
dry.
it, wasn't he? He was smart with it. Yeah.
Very, very dry. And Ferguson got rattled, and you know his nose started glowing, and his veins were popping, and you know, it was just fantastic. And you get Pizzagate and all this sort of stuff, and the whole period was just phenomenal. And we felt like we were just the match was won in the tunnel before we even set foot on the pitch. The players we had, you know, and you can imagine the opposition looking around and seeing Henry and Vieira and Gilberto and all of them, you know.
Another unsung hero, another underrated player, Gilberto. Edu, who's still he's at the back at the club now. You know,
we got rid of him far too early, didn't we, Gilberto? He still had so much life left in him.
Obviously, there's the Invincibles. Then there's, you know, getting through to the Champions League final, which you know we should have won, but it never happened. And then it's like that team started to get broken up because then it kind of moved to the Emirates after that a few years. So, you know, and that was kind of the down. I know Arsene Wenger had a job to do, obviously, to try and keep Arsenal on an even keel, but it was never the same, was it, Andrew?
No, we lost a little bit of Arsenal was lost when we moved out of the Highbury into the Emirates. I think. Yeah. I don't think it's not the same, and it never has been. You know, we haven't created enough history at the Emirates yet.
Yeah.
But for me, if I would, I won't go on to that yet. We'll come on to that a bit later, actually. But yeah, a little bit of soul went out of the club when we left that beautiful stadium, Highbury, I think. And I just wish we could have stayed there. But I think the problem, we could go on forever about the Wenger era. I know we ain't got the time. But I'll sort of go on towards the latter sort of stages then, because there's so much I have to miss out.
Yeah,
I know
we'll have to do another one. We'll have to do another one then, Andrew.
Yeah,
part two.
Honestly, I could go on about it for ages and ages. I think there's so much to talk about, and I'm trying to curb myself back a bit. But Wenger's problem at the end, he was too stubborn, and the problem, I think, he was so loyal. He gave his life to Arsenal. Let's face it, he gave his life to Arsenal. And I'm convinced that he shouldered so much of the flack that should have gone away. Yeah, it shouldn't have been nothing to do with him. But he took it all on himself and took the blame. And I think slowly but surely, it literally wore him down and broke him. And I think towards the end, when he left, he should have left earlier. We all know that.
Should have left after the Chelsea FA Cup win, shouldn't he?
Yeah, or potentially even earlier. Maybe. I mean, we wouldn't have wanted to lose that match, would we? That was incredible, that final. Yeah. But maybe he should have left in 2014, even after the other one. But I think he just took on too much blame. He broke himself inside because he was convinced and he really wanted to turn this around. But due to the constraints and the move to the Emirates, he was working with a hand tied behind his back a lot of the time. And I think the fact that he got us into the top four as often as he did with very, very substandard teams compared to what he had before, that is an achievement that should not be overlooked. I mean, we were in the running for the league maybe 3 or 4 times in the latter years, up until about maybe 10 matches to go. And then because of the weakness of the squad, we collapsed.
Yeah, it was a March time we tended to fall away, didn't we?
But it kept us up there right until the latter stages of the league with a very poor side compared to what we should have had, unfortunately.
Yeah, but Andrew, even having said that, the issues that Arsenal have never got addressed.
No, they didn't. He was stubborn. He was too stubborn, and he brought the wrong type of player in. He started losing the plot. Unfortunately, I think he really did, and he started making some decisions that, in hindsight, I'm sure he absolutely bitterly regrets. And the fact that we never offered contracts over a year to anyone over 30 massively hit us.
Big mistake.
Spoke about earlier, Gilberto. Yeah. He could have gone on for another 2, 3, 4 years easy.
Yeah.
He wasn't. And there's a large number of players like that we should have kept on.
But Andrew, look,
it clouded his judgment.
Andrew, we know it clouds his judgment, but I'm getting on to question 8 now because I think this ties in nicely with.
It does. It does.
If I mention the name Ivan Gazidis, what comes into your mind?
Well, I'll tell you what comes into my mouth: a little bit of sick. That's unfortunately. I think I can only say, and again, this is only my own opinion. It was a complete and utter failure at his job, and he was a liar, and he ruined Arsene Wenger. I think he was. A lot of the stuff that he did ruined Arsene Wenger, and I think it ended up getting rid of Arsene Wenger. It broke him, and he's the one that got in Emery. He's the one that gave Ozil this contract just before he left. What a great parting gift that was, wasn't it? And along with Emery, he shoulders a lot of the blame for an awful lot. He wasn't to blame for the Emirates, obviously, because he didn't come in till after we'd moved in. But I don't know where to start, really. But I think that the constraints and the mistakes and the decisions he was making, Arsene Wenger protected him for some reason. I think he did. And like I said, it ended up breaking him piece by piece. And you could see Wenger was a pale shadow of his former self towards the end.
He wasn't the same, was he? He wasn't the same fella.
No, he's starting to look like his old self again now after he's been out of the game for a couple of years. He's managed to get himself back a little bit, but you could see at the end he's a bag of bones on the bench. He looked like he's so gaunt and he looked ill. And I was so glad for him when he eventually did move on to get rid of all this hate. I mean, I just felt so sorry for the guy. I could totally understand all the Wenger out brigade for years going on and on and on. But I really felt sorry for Arsene Wenger. And even though that I wanted him to go far earlier than he did, it was only because of his own sake I wanted him to go, for his own health and his own well-being. I hated seeing all this vilification and the horrible chants that were going against him from our own fans. And I thought it was unfair. And I don't think that a lot of the fans were looking at the bigger picture and seeing what was actually happening behind the scenes. All they were looking at was what was going on the pitch. And they just put all the blame on him. And Wenger shouldered it all. And it just destroyed him, unfortunately. And I put a lot of the blame down to Ivan Gazidis. And look at what's happened at AC Milan now. The guy is useless. And I just don't understand. Surely he will never work in the sport again after this AC Milan stint that he's got now. Surely they can see him for what he is. But yeah, I've got a lot of dislike for the guy.
Well,
In fact,
he
I'll
came
go
out
as
with
far as to say-
metrics. He came out with the metric shout, didn't he? At one stage,
Yeah.
it was we're going to be competing at the top table. Then he
Bayern
came out
Munich.
with. Then he came out with, no, we're working on a metric system. So it's just lie after lie after lie after lie after lie. Didn't have the best interest of the football club at heart.
No, he
as far
couldn't
as
have
I'm
cared less about
concerned.
Arsenal. No,
Yeah.
no.
But
And you
Arsene
know
Wenger's
what?
got a book coming out, hasn't he?
Oh, yeah, I can't wait.
Do
I mean, it's too
you
much.
reckon? Do you reckon he might
Do you know what?
be?
I'd love to think he would, but he's such a gentleman, isn't he? And he loves the club. Will he want to drag the club
Yeah,
through?
but
I just hope he goes after him. If he goes after him, great. But I'm not sure.
Yeah, but Andrew, I don't look. I still think Arsene Wenger will be a gentleman, but it's not as if to say will he go after him. My question to you, Andrew, is Arsene Wenger could just explain what happened. What happened? Do you understand what I mean? He doesn't need to dig him out. He just needs to explain. I couldn't do this because the restriction from Ivan Gazidis and the board was this.
Yeah,
So at least
I really
you know.
hope so. I really, really hope so. And Nicholas Benton's got a book coming out at the same time. Just by the way, that'd be interesting as well.
That would, because he'll fire.
He
the
won't
shots,
hold back on anything. Exactly, yeah.
He'll fire the
But
shots.
I'm so hopeful that Arsene Wenger does tell us everything. But my heart tells me that he won't. But I just hope so. I really hope he does. Yeah. It'll be so interesting. I can't wait for it.
So Andrew, okay, let's kind of bring it to modern right now. What do you think Mikel Arteta needs to do at the Arsenal right now?
He needs to, more than anything, build a team of tough, mentally strong players, some leaders that have also got that technical ability to play the style of play that he wants on the pitch. That is so important to me. I did a show on Wednesday where I gave a list of players, that alternative players to the usual names that are going out on Twitter, like the Upamecano, Partey, Grealish. I want all those three players. But I've given a list of alternatives as well, from players from the Championship, which I stand by because if you ever get a chance to listen to the show, what I explained was, because a lot of fans think that the Championship is far too low a standard.
They think it's inferior.
Oh, mate, I could not disagree more. I think the Premier League is a lot faster paced, but the Championship is the hardest league in the world to get out of, and it builds character.
Yes.
And if you get players from that background, they haven't come through the A-grade academies and become really mollycoddled and think they've made it at 16.
Yeah.
They've got a good attitude. And a lot of the players have come up through the divisions. Look at Sheffield United now. What they've achieved this year with a great coach, a great mentality, and the right attitude on the pitch, because they are so grateful to be playing in a Premier League. They never thought they'd do it, and probably a lot of those players.
Yeah.
And no one had heard of them. And I think our situation now is so similar to when George Graham took over at Arsenal. It's unbelievable.
Big time.
And we've got so many good players coming through the academy. And will they make it? Time will tell. But I really hope they get their chance. I've got a massive feeling that Emile Smith-Rowe is going to be a player, real player. And I want to see these players coming through. But I also want the right type of player to be brought into the team, and I want them to look outside the normal
channels,
the small
outside the normal channels.
Exactly. So that's one thing. It's really important to me, is to get the leaders on the pitch that can also play. Make the opposition scared of us again. When they sort of come up in their coach. I think Arteta said this in maybe his first ever interview when he took the job. I want when the opposition come up and see the Emirates, I want them to be scared of playing Arsenal again.
Yeah.
And that's what I would love, that sort of feeling as well.
I think we all want that.
To turn the Emirates into a fortress, that would be amazing. I want us to be tough. But the other thing is, which is out of his hands, but he needs to be backed. It's going to be so difficult, but we've got multi-billionaire owner. He has got to notice that if he doesn't back him, I can see that Arteta will just go because I don't
Somebody will
think
snap
Pep's,
him up. Somebody will snap him
Man
up.
City will. I think Pep's cracking. I really do. All these, it's unlike him to actually start slating clubs like Arsenal. He slated Arsenal. He's showing signs of cracking already. He's been there 4 years, and that's a long time for him.
I love it, Andrew. That's how it
Me
used
too,
to be.
but it worries me though, mate.
It
It worries me because I think the whole country is seeing what effect that Arteta leaving City has had on them. Genuinely,
yeah.
And I think Pep was asked a question when they were coming up to play Arsenal that Arteta must have learnt a lot from him whilst he was there. And he turned the question around and said, maybe I learnt a lot from him.
That's right. That's right.
I genuinely think Arteta is going to be a world-class manager. Genuinely do. I've got so much confidence in the guy. He's far better than what people give him credit for now. And I think he's got a lot of credit now. I think he's better than the people think.
And Andrew, let's have it right. He's working with other people's players.
Mate, look at the players we had in December. The same squad. We were heading towards the bottom three.
Right.
And I'll tell you now, this is my biggest thing about Arteta, right? I think people go on about the formations on the pitch, how you overcome the opposition, and shall we play a 3-4-3, whatever, all these different types of connotations. That's the easy part for Arteta. That's a piece of piss for him. Have you heard of the writer Michael Cox, the journalist Michael Cox, who does he would be the best manager in the world if that's what the game, if that's what it was all about. The type of tactics.
Yeah.
What separates a good tactician from a great coach is to be able to turn the mentality of a player around the way that Arteta has in the last. Well, he's only had. Well, let's face it. With a 3-month gap, he's only had about 4 months really as a coach on the pitch.
That's right.
So he came into a team that was plummeting towards the bottom three, and a lot of the players were already out of the club. Let's face it. Xhaka had 1 foot on the plain turf of Berlin. Mustafi was the most vilified player in the world, the way that he was playing and defending.
Yeah.
David Luiz was the same. And the whole team had no confidence and was shot to pieces. And what separates a good coach from a great coach is the ability to turn losers into winners. And in such a short space of time, although we've had a few setbacks along the way, which is bound to happen with the players we've got.
Which we're going to do as well, which we're going to have, yeah.
You've got to expect. And the analysis after every defeat is always the same, and it bores me to tears. Our players aren't good enough. We haven't got enough creativity in the midfield. Our defence is poor. We can't defend set pieces. We know that, but we know that already. Just stop saying it after every defeat. It's going to happen until we change our players. But the turnaround in the mentality, and which is why I absolutely loved the win against Liverpool.
Yes.
We were battered for 89% of the game, but we won. And we haven't seen that since the George Graham days, that type of backs to the wall, grit, determination, strong mentality. We ain't going to be beaten today type of attitude coming from a goal down against the team that's blown everyone away this year. And that win says something to me more than anything. Yes, it wasn't a great sort of performance on the eye, but the mentality that shows me how good a coach Arteta is.
Yes.
And it was almost, it was the same against Man City as well. And he broke Pep that day, honestly, because he schooled him on the pitch. He set traps around that pitch and they fell into them left, right and centre. And Pep didn't have an answer towards the end.
Yeah.
He didn't have an answer. They didn't hurt us in the slightest. And even Liverpool battered us the whole match, but they didn't create many opportunities in that game.
And that's the key, isn't it? That is the key, to everything. So listen, I agree with you. I agree. I think Mikel Arteta needs to be backed. I think he's done the first thing he had to do is change the mentality. I think he's starting to do that now. We're in a final, in a season of upheaval, and we've had 3 managers in one season, which is so not Arsenal. So fingers crossed we could get that across the line. But Andrew, we're at the last question here, mate. And it's flown by. It's flown by, right?
It really has, yeah.
So My last question to you is this, Andrew. If you could change 3 things at the Arsenal to improve the club, that's football side or whatever you could change, what 3 things would you change?
All right, the first one I'm going to say, I'm going to be sure, absolutely sure, is really controversial to a lot of people. But I should imagine the first thing that on most of these people you speak to's list is get new owners.
Right.
I'm not 100% sure we need new owners, right? I think the biggest thing that they're guilty of is neglect and not giving enough accountability to the people they've put in place. Now, I hope that they're making steps to do that with this new appointment of Tim Lewis, who's an Arsenal fan, who's that big, onto the board, non-executive director. I think that he's going to hopefully have his ear to the ground and hold people accountable for the decisions they're making. So I'm not sure that I would say instead of getting new owners, I would really want the changes I've made, get them to take more interest into the club on a daily basis and invest more when needed, which is clearly now.
Yes.
Now, they've done something that shocked us all by paying off our debt, transferring it to themselves, which is a lot better than people think.
It's much better than people think.
Mate, people have knocked it as if it's nothing. That's a big thing for them to do,
Yeah.
And we ain't going to have to we're going to have at least a 2-year payment holiday, so I hear, which is a big difference, and we haven't got to hold all that money in account anymore. So that's a good start. I'm actually quite confident that they are going to put some money in to at least buy one player, and the rest we can generate from sales. But I think that if they can start doing that more, then I think we've got a lot to be. we could have had far worse owners, put it that way. Look at what's happened to Wigan. Look what's happened to Charlton Athletic. Great clubs, Wigan won the FA Cup recently, had a great owner, and look what's happened to them now.
Yeah.
Look at Newcastle. We could have had a lot worse owners. My biggest wish is that they would take more interest and invest. My second thing was I would replace Raoul and Vinay immediately, and I would frog march them out there without even being able to clear their desks. I would send it on to them, and I would replace them with people that know football and going to have the club at heart. Good examples. There's a guy called Ian Congerton at Leicester who is in charge of their recruitment. What recruitment they do. Look at the players they've brought in and taken a gamble on. James Maddison, for example, from Norwich, is a great example I spoke about on Wednesday when they got him from the Championship. And so many of our fans are snobbish about bringing players in from the Championship. They need Premier League experience. No, they don't. They need to have a great technical ability and the right attitude and mentality. That's what's important. And look how much money he's worth now. Before the pandemic, he was being spoken about as an 80 to 90 million pound signing for Man United. I don't know what it would be now, maybe 50. But that is the sort of recruitment you need. And there's so many examples of great signings that Leicester have made. And look at the sale that they did to Man United, selling that big slab head to Man United for 85 million. I mean, look at him now. He looks like he's Bambi on ice, when he's defending. So, and they squeezed 85 million out of him. So we need someone like that guy in place. Or Stuart Webber from Norwich, who's obviously they've had a bad season. But the way that the club is run is fantastic. I ain't going to go into it. I could spend another few minutes talking about that. But the business model they've got there is incredible. And they've got some players that they will make a lot of money on this year in their fullbacks. Their Ben Godfrey as well. And the list goes on. Todd Cantwell. Someone like Stuart Webber or him would be fantastic. And also bring in some ex-players to work, into the club. I cannot understand for the life of me why Dennis Bergkamp ain't there. He's sitting on his arse doing nothing, and he's openly said he'd love to come over.
Well, everybody can't come in. So
no, but
Santi
Dennis
Cazorla,
Bergkamp,
they want Santi Cazorla. Who do you have? Santi Cazorla, Dennis Bergkamp. Who do you have?
Well, I would have Dennis Bergkamp in a more sort of not a director of football type role, but it's similar. I would have Santi Cazorla on the coaching staff, 100% without question. But I would just, especially Dennis Bergkamp. I don't understand that. I mean, even like to replace Raoul, Mark Overmars is doing an incredible job at Ajax. What about someone like him who actually genuinely cares about what type of? I mean, the players that they've got at Ajax and they work with, it's the type of players we need. You know, he would have a lot of. You still have some. I know he wasn't with Arsenal for too long, but he would still have an affection for the club, and he would do a better job than Raul. Raul is the one thing that I want rid of more than anything. He's just annoyed. He looks like Danny DeVito as a penguin, and he just like is making all the wrong decisions for himself, not the club. You know, I hate the guy, and I think he is the biggest problem that we've got. And the third thing I would change is ticket prices. Now more than ever, they should realise how important the fans are to the club, and we're taken for mugs. And that starts with people like Ivan Gazidis thinking, let's just wring every single fucking penny we can out of these mugs that come through our doors. Yeah. They don't treat us like fans. And now, hopefully, they'll realise what difference we are to the club. Yes. Because we ain't there.
I agree with that. I agree with you there.
I can't get to hardly any games now because I've got my 3 boys and I'm proud to punch with my 3 boys, and they're all Gooners. And we live in the Midlands now. We don't live in London anymore. We live in Leicestershire. Yeah. Whenever I go to a match, it costs me nearly 400 quid for the day. You know, wow. And it's just ridiculous. It's
astronomical money.
Well, do you know what? I mean, even things like the membership, even they don't do family memberships. Like one parent who can add so many children to it. You have to do it all individually, and it's all the same price. It's a joke. Why don't you just respect the fan, respect the people that want to bring the next generation of Arsenal fans with them to see the club. Yeah. You know, how important is that to keep the kids interested in Arsenal at the moment? Because we haven't been winning anything. No. We're going to be losing a whole generation of fans globally. So do something about that for fuck's sake, Arsenal.
To keep them interested, keep them in place. Yeah.
I'd love nothing more to be able to go to every home game and take my kids there, but I cannot afford it. I haven't got the money. So sort it out. You know, give us some kind of incentive to be able to get our kids in through the doors. So that's the third most important thing for me, because it really affects me, and I want to get down there more often.
Well, Andrew, listen, on that note, I think that's the right way to finish this, because I think that's a real admirable. You want to go to more games. You want to bring your boys to more games. I'm sure there's other families out there who want to go, but simply priced out of it. So
yeah,
I'd love the club to be able to do something for the fan. But
really hope so. Yeah.
We're at the end, Andrew. Listen, it was a pleasure, absolute pleasure talking to you. Listening to your experiences, and listen, hopefully we can do part 2.
Do you know what? I've missed out so much stuff that I had in my head I wanted to talk to you about, like all my hybrid experiences and all that.
That's why
I haven't even.
That's why I say.
My mouse ran away with me.
That's why I say hopefully we could do a part 2, because I know you got plenty more.
Definitely, I have. You know, I'm going to kick myself when I get off this call now. Because I've missed out so many things I wanted to talk about. But I really appreciate it. I've really enjoyed it. And I thank you very much for inviting me on.
No problem, Andrew. And hopefully we could get to a part 2 pretty soon. Take good care, my man.
And you. Take care, Kevin. Bye-bye.